listeners of all ages. My name is Magic Al, and this is the mostly true story of the sword in the stone. Why, a long time ago, in a troubled land, a sword appeared, fused in metal and rock, with an inscription: he who could remove this sword would be the true and rightful king of all the land. Well, people thought that this was a lovely sculpture, some kind of Banksy type of political statement. I mean, the blade was obviously fused with the metal underneath it, until it was discovered that the blade itself was magical. Why, just the slightest touch would cause damage. Well, everybody's seen sharp blades before, but that wasn't the most magical part of the blade. Why, the magical part that gave the blade fame was that you could take a piece of cloth and hold it up against the blade, and as you brought it against the blade would pass through the cloth and not damage the cloth. It only seemed to hurt tissue. Well, word spread all around the kingdom, and it had 10 feuding warlords. Each came and tried to remove it to nothing. All the strongest warriors tried to pull on it, and nothing. But then a young man named Arthur approached, and a song rang out throughout the land. The crowd cheered, but the warlords, of course, would have nothing of it, hear nothing of it. And history records 10 epic battles that Arthur fought to win his kingdom. Let me show you how Excalibur, the magic of the blade, helped him win his battles. Let's use this bulletproof glass as a stand-in for the armor that Arthur would face in the field. When Arthur met an armored warrior, he'd approach that warrior with Excalibur head held high. And as he got very close, at the very last moment, he would drop the tip of the blade and point it directly at the heart of the opponent. The blade easily slid through the armor like a hot knife through butter and into the heart of his opposing warrior. And the magic, when Arthur removed that blade, the battle armor was unharmed, and Arthur could use it to make his army even stronger. And he won all 10 battles, and peace reigned for years, until from the far north, from under a dark and eerie castle, there emerged a new threat to Arthur's kingdom. From deep within, even below the dungeon level, there emerged a black cloud, a cloud so dark that it would blot out the moon and the stars, and it was filled with horrific creatures. Those creatures, of course, dragons, fire-breathing dragons, burning homes and fields, feasting on human flesh, all in pursuit of gold with which to line their lairs. And yet, every night, when that dark cloud would reappear, the dragons would use it for cover and attack more of Arthur's land. Arthur needed a plan, and he that one, you see, when the dragons breathed their fire, they became briefly visible. Arthur's men built metal nets to withstand the flaming heat and snagged the dragon. So when it tried to take off, they'd tie off the ropes to the rocks around it, slowing him down enough for Arthur to come and use Excalibur to pierce the armored scales and defeat the dragon in the field. Dragon after dragon was defeated. Soon, the remaining few dragons, they retreated. They retreated back to the castle, back to their lairs deep below even the dungeon level for safety, to lie on their golden piles in the safety of their castle. Well, Arthur was not going to be have his kingdom threatened by dragons ever again. And he gathered the knights of the Round Table with their metal nets. And they headed north to find that castle. They descended down the steps past the dungeon level, deep within to the dragon's own lair. There, they came upon hallways of the dragon lairs that were paved, covered in gold, and doorways, dragon doorways, leading to each individual dragon's lair, where they rested at the back on their piles of gold. Well, Arthur, to stay safe as they padded through the hallways, would crack open the door and investigate the darkness by plunging Excalibur deep into the darkness to make sure no dragon lurked just behind the door. And then, although most of the gold of his kingdom was gone, he still had the honey gold, amber sweetness, natural honey, natural gold of his land. And he had his men put piles of this golden sweetness just inside the doorway to try to lure the dragons down from the back of their piles of gold to suck its golden nectar. And his men placed their metal nets above those doorways. They sent sentries to listening at each doorway, listening for the sound of a dragon slithering down to the front of the lair. And when they heard that sound, they knew to be ready. And as soon as it was there and the dragon was eating the honey, they threw open the door. The surprised dragon would greet them with thrashing claws. Arthur was also there at the ready and severed the limb of those thrashing claws. Then the dragon, enraged, would begin breathing fire and come charging out at Arthur's men with the remaining teeth and claws. They dropped the nets to slow it down. Arthur was at the ready and skewered the dragon right through the armored scales of his neck, and soon beheaded the dragon. Dragon after dragon was defeated in this manner until there was just one dragon door left. The men had their metal nets set at the ready. They listened for the sound of that dragon to come slithering down its pile of gold to eat the bait. And when they heard that it was supping on that sweet amber liquid, a little distracted, they'd throw open the door. The surprised dragon responded with thrashing claws. Arthur was there and just severed the limb of the thrashing claws. The dragon responded with more fiery breath and came charging out, enraged to attack the men who dropped the net. Arthur was there, ready, and skewered the dragon neck with Excalibur right through its claw, right through its armored scales. The final dragon had been defeated. Well, all that was left for Arthur to do was to take the remaining gold from all those lairs and use it to rebuild his charred kingdom. On the way back, Arthur thought, perhaps it's time to put Excalibur back where it belongs, back in that anvil, back in the mountains, so that some future king could be discovered and use Excalibur to save the day in some future time. As he plunged Excalibur into the first welcoming anvil, suddenly all the ground began to shake and rattle and roll, and all of the earth erupted in an explosion of new growth, new fields, new forests, new flowers. It was a time of peace, a time of prosperity, a time to this day we still know as Camelot.